Hello and welcome to the Investing Bros. It is me, T Shroom. Tim is still snowboarding. He's cold, but he's having fun up there in Maine, and it is insane. While he's in Maine, it is insane. The price we're seeing for some of these digital assets that we love and we trade, and Bitcoin is chief among them. I am joined today by a technical analyst heavyweight, and that would be none other than Magic Internet Money. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on here. Magic, how are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm enjoying the pump. I think everybody in the space is. Well, I hope they are.
Yeah, it is pretty freaking awesome to watch the numbers go up at a much more aggressive rate than we've been seeing. I mean, we saw this kind of in the excitement of the spot Bitcoin ETF approval, and now we're kind of seeing it again, getting up to similar levels. So I'm going to have a ton of fun, kind of jumping on your chart,
Yeah.
watching along, asking questions. Bros, I encourage you all to ask as many questions as you'd like. We're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna find some really good levels. We'll cover some news. I'll be straight with you guys. There's not a ton of news. There's some stuff that's actually kind of interesting, but it's not. There's nothing earth shattering. We're gonna cover that at the back end of the show. We do have a factoid of the day, and then we also I learned before we started the stream that Magic Internet Money does not know about Caspa pretty much at all. So we're gonna get his impression about Caspa and to his look at the charts. But before we do all that, I would go ahead and encourage you guys to like the stream. Go ahead and get it pumped for the algorithm. Get excited. And also, if you're new, consider subscribing because we bring the value here at Investing Bros. And also, before we get too far, all of Magic Internet Money's links are in the description of this video. So make sure you check those out as well. Now, Magic, are you ready to jump into some of the charts here that you've got picked out? And let's take a look. I'm assuming we're going to start here with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Bitcoin's kind of the one that's stealing the show anyway at this point. It seems like altcoins are kind of stalling out a little bit while it does its thing. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways you could have read this. When we were together here not that long ago, there was a setup that it's still technically in play. It's a shark pattern. Okay, so
That's right.
this is it's a harmonic, and it was below this deviation here. So what we were looking for is the recovery of the beginning of the pattern, which is X right here at 40,200, and you can see that it put in an ascending triangle here, and then out it goes. And if you're not a harmonic guy and you're into regular patterns, I mean, I think everyone can kind of appreciate and see what's going on here. You have like a shoulder type thing here, and then obviously I call these meme triangles because everybody plays them. But yeah, a really nice breakout. The targets on this are what's very interesting to me. You had the 50% mark, which is the automatic target anytime that we have a setup like this, which is also about the EQ of these two standard deviations. So these are closures from 2023 that will apply all the way through 2024 in terms of a level. So I'll be using these for the next 12 months, including for further projection of price, which does line up nicely with other things which we like. So once you hit
Very
the
nice.
50%, you kind of actually ignore the 618 on this. So that's why the 50% was such a big level for me going into it. So I did short this right here. It didn't quite go as low as I'd like it to. So got to take profit in. Then I got stopped out pretty promptly and quickly. But knowing the gold pocket really wasn't a target. There was no reason to short it. The next target was actually the 886 on something like this. So when you're looking at that, you can see you've got a daily naked point of control up here from when you made your high back on the 11th. And you are finding resistance there. So it will be pretty important for Bitcoin going forward to start holding on to like this $47,000 area. And I'm going to put it as a zone. We talked about a couple things actually when we were discussing this last one. One, these levels here, which are good, but the kind of not a secret or anything, but the yearly opens are very, very important. And we discussed this last time, and I believe I pulled them up for you. But you have some yearly opens to be aware of that are, relevant to price action right now. And I would actually pair these up with what we've got going on in terms of a level at that 47K area. And so that's why I say it's more of a zone, and you could probably go in and use some volume profile and also, get some confluence with that. So if this rally is going to continue past these higher targets, you are going to want to see this area of the chart between 46 195 and 47 immediately start holding. We'll go back down. I'll put 47.047 back on the chart real quick, and we'll go down to the 4 hour. It's just easier to see. So you've got a little bit of a zone here, and this does need to hold, and you can see why. Losing this it's not damning, but this is a pretty quick move up. So you are looking at probably re-entering some form of a range at that point as well. If I had to guess, your weekly range is probably somewhere in that neighborhood. And for those that aren't doing a weekly range, that's okay. But I like to track things based on time. So this is the start of this weekly open to current price action. I'm going off spot, not CME in this case. So that'd be Sunday at 6 o'clock my time. And you can see that's actually the value area high as well. So, should Bitcoin get a pullback here and not get continuation, this is going to be an important area to watch out for, mainly because it's the 2022 open. Technically, the 2022 high is up here as well. I'm not too big on that level. But falling back below this puts you back in the range and then puts you in jeopardy of retracing a large amount of this move. It doesn't mean that it can't come back into this range and consolidate and put in another higher low. But I'm not a big fan of it doing so, to be quite upfront with you. I would like to see continuation on something like this. So that said, we know we're kind of looking for, in my opinion, these are all just my opinions on the chart of what I want to see if I want to see continuation. Where do we go from here if there is continuation is the next question. And it's pretty easy to get. Yeah, that's the fun part. Yeah. Where do we go from here? There were two setups for this top. So I'm short from just over 48K actually. So if I get stopped out up here, I'm totally fine with it. I'm one of those people that when I set a trade, this is a big move down. So obviously I get some kind of a take profit out of it. But if I set a trade, I let it run its course. So my stop loss is set, my take profits are set, and then things will work out how they work out. That's the only way you can truly learn as a trader. I was explaining this to Crypto Keeper on the phone today. We had like an hour-long conversation. Yeah. And it was pretty much that if you let your emotions let you tinker with your trades too much, you don't really ever learn anything. You don't understand like why a trade went south or vice versa. So where it goes from here is the CME chart actually. So CME is where I had found kind of a different setup for a top. And what I'm looking for is timing yet again. So if we were going to see a top, we were looking the second week of January, right around that gold pocket area that was listed on Twitter. I've also put this one on Twitter as well. So if we're looking at CME, however, I would like to see it coming in towards the end of February. And that was something I've kind of said, if we were going to see a new high, it would probably come in the back half of February, and I'd be looking for this move here. And this is all just predicated off of price action from the COVID low to our top here and then down to our bottom. Basically measuring the impulse links, and then you're just projecting those off of where we've made our bottom and trying to figure out, okay, if the market is symmetrical, which a lot of times it is, how likely is it that we get continuation past these days? And if we reach those days and we're in an aggressive uptrend, am I at resistance? What is the context? And you certainly are. You still have the gold pocket here. Just above you around 52, 53K is a pretty important level in terms of sweeping these highs of this consolidation before dumping. So going back to the spot chart, there is a couple things there to be aware of. In quarter four, from prior sessions, you left an untapped pivot over here. This is one of the first trades I had taken. Actually, one of the last trades I took in 2021 was I was looking for a quarterly pivot right here at 52,217. And you actually front ran it by a few days. And you do that a lot with these averages. And you got a really nice swing fail from up here. So I took the trade anyway, knowing that this was going to generate in this general area and was just looking to short it. So it was a good trade. However, it is technically untapped. So I would expect us to see that if we continue from here. So 52 to 53K lines up nicely with the secondary setup for a more bullish February. Also, it lines up with kind of just the target that I have in terms of like an untapped key level that I'd like to see tapped. But more importantly, all these highs would be taken at this point. You would be taking out everybody that has any kind of position from here on over. And believe it or not, people do hold positions that long. I'm guilty of it myself, holding positions for over a year. So that's kind of how I'm seeing things. If price is going to continue, 52, 53K is on the table for sure. However, you start living probably below the 2022 open around 46.2. And I wouldn't say it's a death sentence to the rally. I would just say, caution would probably be warranted. If you wanted like a true death sentence level, realistically, I think the monthly pivot would get it best. It's really close to your 2024 open. Anything back below like 44K, back inside this triangle that on the breakout or head and shoulders, however you want to look at it,
Mm-hmm.
I would, be pretty cautious. I would expect new lows. I'd be looking for 34, maybe even 28K at that point. That would look pretty bad. So it just all depends on how we get there. But right now, a lot of strength. There's really been no reason to short just yet. The setup hasn't really played out. So I'm expecting higher until new data comes in and says otherwise at this point. That's really it. That's the next levels for me. 52, 53. I'm not looking for all-time highs before the halving. I know some people are going to start saying that. Could it happen? Absolutely. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just a trader on the internet,
Very nice. I appreciate that. No, that's good. So you were basically saying if we come back down and we get back down below 44,000, that would essentially go ahead and say we might be headed lower.
I wouldn't say I would be pretty confident that we would be heading fairly low at that point,
Gotcha.
below 44. And the main reason being is, when we talk about these yearly opens being important, but the monthly pivots, this is something that I believe I was on with Tim a long, long time ago, like a couple years ago. But when you look at these are just averages of price,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, prior session. In this case, it's 1 month. So when price is bearish, obviously it spends a fair amount of time below it, right? So you've been trending above these pretty aggressively, and you've actually been leaving some of them untapped, which is not unusual. They get tapped about 75 to 77%, depending on the year. So, you are going to leave a few that don't ever get touched. And a lot of times price will come back to them and bounce.
A little bit like
but in
gaps.
this case, yeah, kind of like that. So in this case, it's a static average, because all it is the high-low close of the prior session, meaning all of this data here, and then divided by 3, and you get this average, right? So it's an average of price. I prefer to use horizontal averages rather than dynamic. I like them to be set in stone. I don't want to have to worry if they've changed on me, anything like that. So in this case, coming back below this level, which essentially is about 44K, give or take, it's not looking great. It would look like you're probably going to come down to these other averages that, were never got the mean reversion. I would expect to see that full mean reversion at that point. But for now, things are good. Like, there's no reason to look for that at this time. In fact, the setup on CME looks more likely, to be quite upfront with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. A lot of beautiful symmetry there. Well, one thing I wanted to note was that while you basically don't look at any news at all, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't really look at any of it.
Yeah, which is for someone like me, I'm like the opposite. Like I have progressed quite a bit in my technical analysis prowess, skills, so to speak, over the last 2.5 years. But I've always been a fundamental thinker and like psychological thinker. And this is one of the things that I've been looking at the charts and kind of thinking about, which it's so fascinating that two people coming from different backgrounds and different skill sets can come to the same conclusion, which is essentially, as price was testing really high back here, right? It was the last time we were trying around these levels to push up was back after the pre-sell the news event at the spot Bitcoin ETF approval event, right? Which is something I'm sure that event was on your radar, I'm sure, but
I knew of it. It's hard. You can't not know of it if you're on Twitter or anything like that.
Right. So then from there, right, there was obviously a move lower, sell the news, and all of that was essentially because of this narrative, this thing that a lot of analysts were not really tracking, which is that GBTC, there's a ETF that was containing at the time futures. It was a trust, and so it wasn't a complete spot Bitcoin ETF, which is what they were going for. Anyway, that came out that their fees were way higher than what the new entrants of BlackRock and Fidelity were able to offer to the market. And so that caused kind of a flight out of GBTC. Okay. And for some reason, they refused to change that fee. I don't know what that was about, but they still haven't changed the fee. Now, GBTC has been able to retain about $20 billion worth of Bitcoin, right? Whereas the newest Fidelity and BlackRock, they're still both combined. I believe they're still both under 5 billion, right? So you see, but they are starting to catch up. And a lot of that GBTC rotated into those lower feed Fidelity and BlackRock ETFs. And then there's the other 7 as well. So that was all that was all taking place here, right? There was something that the market did not know about that was not baked in, which was that high fee in a 20 billion, and it was probably more like 25 billion Bitcoin lockup in that ETF, and that all fled out as soon as it made economic sense to flee out, and all of that required a sell, right? And so that brought the price of Bitcoin down. And ultimately, you could kind of make, the way that I've been thinking about it from a trade psychology standpoint is 42,000, 43, 42, 5, 43 has kind of been where the market was like, okay, because if you kind of look at it here, okay, this is pretty much what Bitcoin's worth. But for a while, we're going to test and see, could it be worth less? And it went down and tested and found decent support here at 38.5 and then came back up. And now, and only now, right, the GBTC selling has actually come down to the same level of selling that it was before the spot Bitcoin ETF approval, right? And so that fundamentally is why I think today we are seeing a huge move higher and a continuation of that move higher because of basically an all clear of the last bearish narrative. And I tweeted about this. I'll read Gary Cardone's tweet real quick here, and then I'll show you the one that I'm talking about. Gary said, "I can confirm that hedge funds and fund managers are deploying funds into Bitcoin today. The younger, smaller, leaner fund managers are pushing families to allocate now rather than waiting. Smart, right? Families who never before had access to Bitcoin. What happens when a family wants 300 to 500 Bitcoin, 225 million deployment, and the allocation starts moving from 0.1% to 5%, and then he's predicting kind of a face rip. So similar. So that's bullish, obviously, and that's Gary Cardone, who I've worked with, and he's got a real good pulse on the market. But this is what I tweeted out. So we still do have the Mt. Gox narrative, which is they could potentially sell Bitcoin, and then the Silk Road narrative, they could potentially sell Bitcoin. But now we've seen what it looks like for GBTC to sell. And it really, this is what it looked like. This was the downside, right? Yeah, now we're leading into a halving, right? There's an overall very bullish sentiment, so that you kind of have to bake into it. If you wouldn't apply that same thought to 2027, like the fall of 2027, because it's just going to be a different market than we're in right now. Right now, it makes a ton of sense to be risk on especially for an asset like Bitcoin. But these are the last remaining sell narratives left now that GBTC has largely resolved. So next, a God candle, which you could argue we're seeing in real time, and then retail FOMO, and then institutional FOMO could be near. So it's always really cool to have you on just to see the kind of the clash and the mixing of these two different ways to approach the market. And at the end of the day, we both make money, we both have smiles on our faces, and we're both not breaking too much of a sweat at the end of the day to try to make it all happen. So I guess the question that I would have for you then is, what are some ways that you're kind of looking at the market and seeing like new opportunity now? Because if you take a look at Bitcoin, like, you could buy high to try to sell higher, right? But where are some assets that you're seeing in the market that are actually undervalued and are going to potentially see a reprice to the upside?
Yeah, so a couple of them are going to be things like I think Solana was one that we actually talked about on your show recently when we met last time. I said in 5 days is when I expect it to bottom out, and it was a pattern as well that did play. It was a harmonic again. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. I am looking at altcoins. I am kind of one of those people. I like the big caps. I'm not going to lie. I know they're not going to move nearly as much, but they have more data, and that to me is priceless for what I do.
That's where we thrive. That's where we thrive here at Investing BROZ as well.
So this was the setup that I gave last time we spoke. So when you said, where are we looking for? So even on like a Bitcoin, drawback, I'm looking for an opportunity on like Solana here. Now, this was the long area. It's a really big box. And I told people, I was like, you might not get all these averages. This was the average of price from 2023. So it hit pretty much to the T. And you had some pretty major macro support here between like some monthly levels. I won't get into that because that's old news now. But you've come down, you've tapped that area. You knew that you could be buying all the way down to 73. Basically, you're looking at it in terms of I look at it in terms of risk. Where am I wrong? Where does this altcoin market go to hell in a handbasket, or Solana's chart? I was like, okay, below this level right here is bad. It's also the start of this pattern. Invalidations here. I'm looking along this back to the point of control, and then potentially through the range, which it's now completed. So Solana was one of those. The other one is I look at things like traditional markets. Tesla, again, another harmonic in this case. So Tesla, a big reversal. Some people on Twitter kind of, I wouldn't say they argued with me, but they debated it. They said, I'm really not sold on this one. This is a level that I gave in October. I gave this box, and this is the exact pattern I put out there October 14th. This was the day I gave, which I missed it by a little bit, but we're pretty close. So was looking for a setup here out of this local gold pocket, knowing that I had monthly support just beneath this. And you can see that going all the way back here. So we have some nice horizontal support. It's been well respected. And then what we have is, I believe it's called a type 2 Gartley in the sense that you have what's called a 1618 and 886. I like to use the term connection, but convergence right here between expansions. And that's a very specific reaction that you get out of that pattern that made me really attracted to this setup for that reason. It's also the same with like a shark. For anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, harmonics are just a system of patterns that use Fibonacci convergence to determine, statistical likelihood of reversal. They get names, obviously, so people kind of like, oh, it's a shark, it's a bat. Oh, these are funny names. But it was, a software that was designed by Scott Carney, and you can go to harmonictrader.com, and he's got free information and videos on there, and even the diagrams are there, so you can see exactly what you're looking for. So I was looking for a reversal here, stop loss below X on Tesla. A lot of people bearish on it too, which kind of helped. And looking to fill this gap and then come back up and back test your B leg, right? So that was another opportunity for me. I was looking to take a traditional market play. And this is actually one of my heavier plays. I had quite a bit of conviction on this one. So the key was to wait for a setup. And what I mean by that is this right here. So as it came down into the level you might be watching, you guys could be like, I don't care about Gartley's. I just knew there was a gold pocket here and I could see the horizontal support. That's why I traded it. I don't need that other stuff. That's great. But when you get there, you still want to have a reason to be buying and an invalidation. So in this case, you can see that you've come down and made a low right here, right at the edge of the box. You've come down, swept that low, and since had a very good reaction, giving you the indication that, okay, maybe I should be looking at this as a swing failure into support that I've been eyeballing, and I should be looking to take some risk. My invalidation is going to go down here where I'm wrong, and I'm going to trade this, right? So that was one of the bigger ones is Tesla. And I usually don't trade as much traditional markets, but recently been looking at exchanges, which I find, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there are crypto exchanges now that offer indices and stocks and stuff that you can trade. Like I know BingX is one of them. And there's a few others out there. And I was like, oh, it's very, very cool that they're now blending those two markets. And I'm hoping, that I know we're all here for crypto, but don't be afraid to dabble elsewhere, guys. Like it's a good market. It's a good time to be diversified.
For sure. It's interesting because I'm the least diversified I've ever been in my investing career. And I've been investing since I was in high school. So around 2016, 17, right? So the last remaining non-crypto equities that I hold is actually just Microsoft. And it's so hard to part with my Microsoft because I bought it at like the bottom of the pandemic levels. So it's probably going to be my little trophy, and I'll be holding it when I'm 60, economics permitting. But yeah, I'm in a similar boat. Once we get, and we're not there yet. We have a lot of miles yet in this marathon with this Bitcoin bull rally, which I'm very glad we're at the beginning of it. But I will absolutely be rotating out of crypto, towards the top of the bull rally, of the bull market. And somebody like you, who's watching the market like a hawk, knows it extremely intimately. Like you're obviously going to be doing that as well. And that's a truth that a lot of folks don't like to hear. Will I be selling all of my crypto? No. I'm not going to rotate out of all of it, right? But I will be taking profits because if you don't take profits, you're just going to hold through a bear market. And maybe that's something you're interested in doing, right? There are some arguments for doing that.
Building character.
Yeah. I mean, just hodling, and equities is 100% one of the assets I'm going to be rotating into. Tesla is really low right now. It's a nice buy. You said you picked some up?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I picked up quite a few shares actually. So It was one of those things where looking to trade it predominantly, but I will probably hold some of it as well. There's a couple other ones that I've looked at as well, like SLB, like the largest oil and gas facilitator in the world.
Schellenberger, I
Yeah,
believe.
Schlumberger. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's technically Schlumberger. I found out Schlumberger,
Is it really?
but yeah, big company. But this one was coming in off of a setup as well, and this is a short setup, which who knows what that says about the price of oil going forward. But you had a really nice reversal pattern, huge run up. You're talking from $11 in 2020 all the way up to 62, and then in a market like that with a company of this size. Pretty solid. So you had the gold pocket, and then you just have a Fibonacci channel here. I just threw that on. You had a very obvious channel, and it's
Mm-hmm.
the gold pocket there as well. So okay, we have some confluence. I'm looking to re-enter the range down here. Just very simple market structure range. Even though this range is like fucking, excuse my language, 5 years. It's way too big. Excuse it. But you got a point of control down here, gold pocket, value low, basic trading stuff. We're just pulling a range and trading for it. You can ignore the harmonic. It's just kind of icing on the cake there. So
That's actually where I had a question. So I'll pull up the different harmonic patterns. Are these all of them, or are there more? It looks like there's 12
that
here.
is that there are, but those are definitely okay. Now I see it. Sorry, I'm colorblind.
Yeah, there's some that are hidden, but
yeah. So that is
16 of them.
Yeah, that is correct, but you could find a better sheet somewhere, I promise, where it's not as hard. I can't see that very well, but that's just me.
Yeah, no worries.
But
just in general,
those are definitely. And he has 3 books out there too. So he's got volume 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend people do read those. It is helpful because he walks you through like how he found these things and why they work and like the reactions, and how to trade them specifically. That's the big thing is like, how do you derive targets? Like, so here's one way to get a target that is not in his book, but like for Bitcoin, for instance, this was a monthly setup for me. This is actually, how I came to, when I found the low, I was like, okay, the low is in potentially. I'm looking for January to hit the EQ of this channel. What I was looking to do as well is you can now do what's called a trend-based projection. So I'll just delete that. You can go over to like your Fibonacci tools. And again, we're just measuring the length of impulses. And this is going to give you a different target than what I just gave you. So not to confuse anyone, but from the bottom of the pattern to the top, right? We need to know how long is this, and now we're just projecting it over to the D leg or the completion. So I want to know where my gold pocket is and where my 1-to-1 is. Like, what would an exact 1-to-1 of this move look like? It would look like $80,000. So if we repeated from X to C, which is the COVID low right around $3,700 up to 69,000, and we repeated that in non-logarithmic, obviously it's linear, 80,000, and then you have the gold pocket actually above us around 55. Again, further kind of indicating that if we, crack through these levels around 47, 48 and live there, the targets are 52, 53, maybe even 55K. And then it's a question of, can you hold on above this like consolidation right here? You can see that if you were to fall back within it, it would probably be, I wouldn't say disastrous, but it would be one of those things where if you bought up here, you might be in some pain. But yeah, that's just another way to get targets. And I like using harmonics mainly because these work off of the major pivot points in the market. And so what that can do for you without any other tools, just identifying these, especially on like a setup, is you can then just go through and say, okay, where are my major pivot points? Well, right away, this B leg is a very big one for me, right? So that is actually where the market bottomed out before making its next high. Mm-hmm. You can go back into like a weekly or daily chart and you can, see that this is a fairly well-respected level. Basically bottomed out on it when it gave it up, nuked, held it as resistance, reclaimed it, you're back on, right? Spread now you're up, looking for higher prices. Yeah. So did it chop around it a little bit? Yes. But, on the way down even, B leg, very, very nicely held down. So it can give you targets. And the main thing to think about this as in using these is it's an untraditional patterns because most people are thinking triangles and wedges and stuff. But when you look at this in terms of how a pattern works, an M pattern, for instance, like this is an M pattern, right? So when you identify the B leg, all you've done is identified, okay, we had a huge consolidation here. I'm now going to get expansion. So I should be looking for, from these key levels, which is, here, where can I find confluence using these pivot points to find Fibonacci expansion targets that might line up with other, macro levels inside of here. And that's what D gave you. This is referred to as a cipher, by the way. Not one that Scott likes. Scott likes the shark. This one is a different one that someone else kind of like, they found his work and then as anything in the internet, once your work is discovered, people are going to start modifying it and doing it their own way. So this isn't actually an official harmonic trader harmonic. However, it's widely recognized in the trading community. So
Interesting.
it is interesting. They've been around for a while. Scott goes on. I don't know if you know who Mitch Ray is, but that's who actually got me interested in these. And then when he started having Scott on, I was like, okay, I need to learn how to trade these. Like the main reason I like them is it gives you a set of invalidation a lot of times. So, for instance, like a bat, right? It's a lower high and implies range bound. So you can actually put your stop loss above that high. And if the pattern is valid, you have a place for your stop loss. So you already know what your risk is going to be. And then you have a target, which is generally the 50% or B leg. It pretty much gives you a trade setup. And they work really well in traditional markets and very well in crypto as well. So not to
awesome.
get off kilter too much.
No, it's good. I like to take a moment for folks who, maybe are completely unfamiliar with certain techniques in trading. And I think harmonics is pretty exotic. I don't think you see it too much. The VWAP's popular. I like to use Bollinger Bands quite a bit and some fibs and then some proprietary oscillators that we're partnered up with ALGO. But I'm also a big MACD guy. So, I'm not going to pretend like I use harmonics. I don't. Right. But I love it when you come on and kind of give that other perspective, and I learn a little bit more every time. In fact, this time I think we've crossed the finish line of me wanting to kind of mess around with them a little bit more. It's actually made a lot more sense. But the question I have is the time scale. Whenever I see you pull up a harmonic, it's almost always like spanning at least a year, if not 3 or 4 or 5. Can it drill down into a 5-hour chart? Is that even?
So
I'm
this
sorry,
is actually
5-minute chart.
No, you can trade 5-minute charts. I've done it before. You just got to remember that your reactions aren't going to be as great. So, if you're trading a 5-minute harmonic, the target of that's probably closer. So, you can't expect like a similar move because people want to hit home runs all the time. I know you understand that, but just understand that it's relative to the time frame. But this shark pattern here was a 4-hour shark. So like this one right here that we just talked about, this setup for the long off of the low, this setup is this is a 4-hour chart.
Gotcha.
And it did max it out. So like that was one thing I noted was the 224% expansion here is like the maximum of this pattern, and it maxed it all the way out. It almost invalidated it, but it didn't. And then you're just looking for recovery here, and it's like, okay, yeah, this 4-hour pattern is not only working out, it's playing out really well, almost to the T to the 886, which is the secondary target. So you've had almost every bull market has actually started in a harmonic, believe it or not. If you went back to like the 2017 top and the lows in 2018, it was a giant bat pattern. I'm infamous. I can't remember what chart I have that on, but when I was looking for the top on Bitcoin, I believe it's on this one. It was a weekly chart, and this was a very, very interesting.
Got the fib fork. I like it.
So I use forks interchangeably with them. So this, I believe, is a modified Schiff. Yeah, so this is actually just projecting a channel, which is almost identical to what we were just doing. So the 50% should be getting hit there. But I had this guy right here. This is actually what I had going on for. I know
Magic Internet Money is getting the most value out of his trading view account of any user. Really maximizing the surface area.
Honestly, it is really almost borderline too much. But so I had to put this together by hand because it was a logarithmic pattern. So I started looking at these in log because I have way too much time on my hands. This was actually this was our topping pattern from the last cycle. I was looking for this. I had posted this actually back here before this high. I said, we're looking for this. The timing's just off as of right now. So I couldn't figure that out. And then we made the low, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take profits at 58K, 58,882 specifically, and then watch what happens. And obviously it dumped. So things panned out well there. But this was what I was looking for. And I actually had my TPs lined up right here. This is like I write notes on my charts and then I hide them. And so operating log, TPs, TP2 is a 382. And, you can start pulling fibs and things like that. So it was just something like this. And I was just starting to look for take profits. And the buy it all was technically this B leg, which we almost hit. We just didn't quite get there. So I was looking to buy it all underneath the all-time high, and I was hoping to come back down towards like that 14K region. We just front ran it by like 1,000 or two. So that was my buy it all leg, believe it or not, right here in this region. Like these are all the take profits. There it is, buy it all. Yeah, this is my buy it all box. I think
Gotcha.
it's labeled right there.
Now,
So yeah, you can use these things for like macro. That's why when I was short and holding it for so long, people were like, how could you hold a short for over a year on this way down? It was one, a hedge, but two, like I was operating off of this. This was my high time frame plan. So
now if I took away harmonics, right? If I took away that tool in trading view, or I just erased it from your memory, would you feel like you're flying blind, and would you probably step away from trading? Or no, you rely on, I mean, Fibonacci is another pretty big tool I've seen you use quite a bit.
I used to, before I got my first channel banned, it was banned back in 2021 in April, I believe, right near the first peak of the all-time high. I was kind of known as the Fibonacci guy, and then I became known as the volume profile guy. I was one of the very first prolific like volume profile analysts that were out there on YouTube and TikTok. So once I got banned on YouTube, I tried to restart and I got banned again because I used the exact same email almost and exact same picture. And you can't create a new account once you get banned. So I went to TikTok and I amassed like 50,000 followers over the course of the next 6 months. But, you know, all that content's still up, and it's pretty much this entire run right here. But it's all volume profile in that case. Volume profile, TPO. You know, I can trade like the 1 minute chart. I do things with, I don't do much with momentum, but I have some like custom tools. Like when I showed you this earlier, I'll get rid of this. You know, this is like a regression trend. You know what that is, right? The regression tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the macro here, we need to get rid of something here. There it is. On the macro here, and we'll get rid of these timelines.
Clean it up.
I know. It's always a mess. This is a regression, right? And all I'm doing is I'm stopping my regression in terms of like what data I'm accounting for based on the reversal pattern, right? So very simple concept for me is I want to know exactly what the trend would look like if I only followed Bitcoin's harmonic right here. Okay. I do this with time as well. So if we took away harmonics, I'll do it with like a year or a quarter. So I'll start on the first and I'll end on, you know, the 31st of the month or the last day of the quarter, depending on what it is. And then I have some custom settings, of course. Like I've tinkered with this over the course of a few years where I know exactly what I want to see and what settings I like. So for anyone that wants that, yeah, a little treat. You guys can just use the golden ratio, believe it or not. Out of all the settings, it was the most obvious. And it took me the longest to figure it out. And it was one day that I was literally sitting around on the weekend drinking and charting because I didn't have my kids. And I was like, what else am I going to do besides, you know, talk some smack on Discord and chart. And this is what I had come up with. And it works really, really well. I use it on the daily time frame to trade sometimes. I've charted it on the New York session only. Things like that. So yeah, I mean, I use all kinds of little things, and then specifically market structure. So when it comes to trading for me, if I'm like day trading, I don't really use the RSI. I don't use any indicators. You will occasionally catch me on like something like XO charts if it's Bitcoin, and I'm essentially just looking at delta at that point. I'm just looking for volume, and then I'm looking at market structure. You know, if I can put traders underwater, can I run that up to the next session high, whatever it may be, and, you know, just go from there. But I mean, the same could be said for here. You guys didn't need any tools to get long out of this. You didn't need harmonics, anything like that. Even if you were on the fence of should I be long or should I be short, you know, you could have easily said, okay, we had a prior consolidation that lasted months, right? And it was right here. And we closed below it and then right back in it on like a monthly. You know, you could go to the daily if you wanted to. You know, this is just a basic concept of, you know, okay, we've reclaimed some ground. We've now had a change of behavior. We're back inside. I should look to rotate to the highs, right? That's just a very basic concept. So, you know, even if you didn't get the low, you could have been like, okay, it's time to buy spot Bitcoin here in the 17s, and I'm going to get long. My setup was from 16,621. It was a weekly swing fail locally. Like you could dive in even further. You could just say, okay, in this consolidation on the weekly chart below where we're at, you can see that we never closed above that on a weekly, and we never closed below this level on a weekly until we did. Oh, come on, get rid of that right here. So you'll notice that this weekly candle does close beneath it just slightly, but then it recovers it. So, you could go to like a 1 hour chart and find a setup there. And if you recover that, weekly level, which this is not gonna, there we go. If you recover this weekly level here on that closure right here, I'm looking along it to the next weekly level, which was a change of behavior, flip to support. Now I'm back at the overall range. And so now your mind has to shift and say, okay, where might we go? And you could say, okay, top of the range is definitely a target. And then again, we're going to bring in another tool. That tool is going to be pivots, right? So pivots are really basic. It's an easy free indicator on TradingView. Again, it's just the average of the prior session. In this case, this is the average for 2022, 26,724. So I knew that if we started putting in a bottom here, specifically recovering this range and holding higher lows, I was looking for at least 26.7. And that was as early as December of last year when we were, coming into the end of the year. So that was just kind of how you do it. No harmonic needed. The harmonic was just the icing on the cake where I was like, oh, we can time this out now. We can look at projections and say, all right, I've got the legs I need. Now I can go on Twitter and collect some clout and tell people when we're going to hit the gold pocket. It's in January, So, yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't matter though. Like that's just for fun. This is what matters, is making money and getting positioned like this. So like when you guys see me take a short at like 49K or 48K, you have to remember I'm also dually long from down here. So I have the kind of the freedom to tinker a little bit. I just don't want to tinker too much and blow my account or anything in terms of like what's not in a long. So the whole goal is to hedge up here in this region. And until we actually make a new high on it or start living above certain areas, I'm going to hold that hedge because it's just, the nature of the beast of who I am as a trader. Just like when we went down to 16K and I opened that long, I was actually still short from my 2022 entry up until we recrossed about $20,000. So I didn't sell the bottom, like close my short down there. I was in both a long and a short. And eventually I was like, okay, it makes more sense to be long here. I'm going to close my long or close my short and just hold that long and see what happens. And it panned out. It worked out really well. So this will be this will be the first bull run that I've nailed going down and up, because when it came out of 2017, I got absolutely wrecked.
Absolutely.
Along with like everybody else. I was holding XRP like a fiend. I bought XRP at like 3 cents and I ran it all the way to the all-time high and then held it all the way back down to like $1. Yeah.
Yep. You're not the only one. Well, this would be a good time. You're talking about the, different accolades, some of the different, trading trophies that you've been able to take home. Where can people find you? Where are you most active? I know that you have a Discord, which is interestingly themed. So maybe not G-rated themed Discord, but it is. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, it's called Crypto Hub. It is a play on the infamous website, guys. It is PG-13 in there. We don't let you post anything graphic. The emojis are, they're close, but not there.
Sure.
But it is strictly for charting. You're not going to find people in there like posting weird stuff. Like you might in like the funny area, but mainly.
Well, now that I'm in there, you got to watch out.
Yeah, we'll get you upgraded to a member so you can tinker in there a little bit, because I am redoing a lot of the educational material that I had done for Leading Crypto. We parted ways actually, and it was fine because CVO and I actually agreed. And I think he's going to work with Gareth Soloway over at Verified. So
right.
All the best to him. Like I love CVO. He's one of those guys that after the 2021 market, he kind of got butchered on TikTok because he infamously was calling for 250K. And I've never had someone as a trader and analyst, like a personality, especially when he had 100,000 followers on TikTok, it's a big account, come to me and say, hey, I messed up. I've been watching your stuff. Can you teach me? And, he would get with me in the mornings at 8 a.m. my time. So whatever time that is for him, and spend a couple hours with me, just like learning kind of the system that I have, because he wanted to see if there was a better way. And he's taken some of what I have and some of what he has, and he's molded it into his own thing. So as I always say, best of luck to him. So if you're not following CVO as well, feel free to. But you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on the Hub. I'm redoing a lot of that educational material. Some of it I did not release in there because it was just one of those things where it wasn't ready yet. Like what I'm doing with session closures right now is trying to predict deviations for the next session. Like I do it on a monthly scale. I do it on a daily scale. And this will be something that you might be interested in, because I'd be curious to see if it translates to stocks just yet, because I haven't done that. But it gives you levels for like a whole month. Like this is these are the levels going forward for February that are generated from January, right? You can see they're pretty decent. They're not perfect by any means, but decent. Like once you recovered this, obviously I'm looking along here and I'm looking to take profit up here. So that's all it's looking to do, is let you get a huge chunk. And if you have a setup like an inverse head and shoulders, or maybe you're playing this triangle, or maybe you're into harmonics, it just adds further confidence that, okay, if we hold 42K, I'm looking to go to 47. That's where I'm looking to take profit at. And the same thing could be said with the quarterly ones, right? You can go to quarterlies now. This is quarterly. You can go to December. There we go. These are the local ones. This is actually for February. Those are the quarterly. This is February's. Yeah. So this is the deviations based on January's data. So you can see you're below your zero line, which is kind of like your even, it's like where it closed at. Now, how far away from that closure can we get? It's 1 standard deviation. We're at 2 standard deviations. The key to this is going to be going into the information and then saying, okay, when is it, what are the signs that you're enough standard deviations away from your zero line? What can I pair that with to make it, conducive to a trade setup? Not just saying, it's a horizontal level of support and resistance, but then saying, okay, if I see, X, Y, and Z on like maybe one of your Lux algos, and I see it at this deviation line, I know that paired up together gives me, X percentage chance of being profitable. That's what you want to know, So that's what I'm working through to get released. That way people can utilize these properly. And it works all the way down to the daily time scale, which I really like. So,
we've got a question here from Eric Wallen, thinking that I didn't see his use of his 6-month super chat. He said, "Can you use the harmonics to predict Bitcoin top this cycle?" And then,
no, I mean, you could. I don't have one for it, to be honest with you. I don't have a harmonic for it yet. I would like to wait and see if we get what I would consider the B leg. And what I mean by that is we've made a pretty big move down from the all-time high to the bottom, right? Now I'd like to see if we get that rejection somewhere and get our lower high or our higher low, and then we can look for expansion from there. So being a little patient.
Absolutely. But so it's almost like, we'll have to have you back on to check in on that and see if we don't get our heads around harmonics in the meantime, which we just might. Speaking of which, let's get a couple of headlines in here. There was a couple, but I think they're all pretty much just not that great. So let me just tell you about one thing. Optimism is looking to pause ETH withdrawals for 1 hour next week to test incident response system. So just be looking out for that. It's going to be on February 15th, just for 1 hour. So just be careful if you're thinking about taking some ETH withdrawals. Probably better to do it before that date or after it. Don't try to do it during it, because it's probably just not going to work at all. So that's that. And that's pretty much it. I wanted to jump in and look at Caspa, actually, and get your impression. Somehow in the world of crypto, you have not taken a look at Caspa yet. So
I never have. And the only reason is I've seen a lot of people talk about it. And I told you this off camera that when I see coins with a ton of hype, I generally I'm the boomer trader of the space, guys. Like I read textbooks for fun.
That's good.
I'm like a Bitcoin maxi. I hate to say it, I'd say a very large portion of my portfolio is in Bitcoin. I would, like 60, 70% of it. So this chart though, that you showed me, I don't know anything about it. Some people said it was like Bitcoin. I'm not sure the mechanics of it.
Well, it's the next Bitcoin.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. It's the next Bitcoin, but maybe it's got properties like it. I thought I heard Piper saying something about that one time. But I put it in log first because I like to kind of, see what the chart looks like. You guys could do this with Link as well, Chainlink. Compare these charts in logarithmic scale versus other cryptocurrencies in logarithmic scale, and they look significantly different. Like Chainlink's very good. This is excellent. Does it have a ton of data? Not necessarily. It's got a little over a year, which in crypto land is not bad. But a lot of higher, lows and higher highs being made.
Yes, sir.
This is a good chart. It's very strong. There's really no sign of weakness. If you were looking at it from like a harmonic standpoint. So, I think that a lot of people that trade ICT, I'm not an ICT guy, but he does have some things in there that kind of do crossover. So you've got these two lows that are really close to each other. So what you want to see is did we take that low, right? So straight away, if I'm a trader, I'm going, okay, we did take this low. We swung, failed the low. You can see you've now back tested it, which for anyone that's watching that charts, this is actually a really great way to find levels to trade off of. So when you have an overall low like this and it gets taken, a lot of times it'll get back tested. It makes for really good support and resistance later. So, in any fashion, you would be looking for the next high, which is up here. And anytime I see something like this and a chart that's this strong, I just want to know if we can get a harmonic out of it, a shark pattern, right? So you've got a really, really nice that's a nice ABC almost. But what you'll see here is you want to see at least a 1618. And I'm actually going to pull up his website so you guys can see it. I think I have it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so this is Scott's website. So harmonictrader.com. Sorry for the white screen for anyone that's at home in advance. But he goes through like a little video, and these are the diagrams to kind of show you what you're looking for. So in this case, when you have like this where you've taken X, right? So we've now taken the low. We're looking at this to expand to a 1618 to at least or a 224% expansion. That's the maximum, but the minimum is 1618. But you want to see an 886 or a 113% for this final leg above where you started. So how that translates to CASPA is we have a 1618 right at the local high. So we've taken the low. It would be nice to go up and take the high and complete this. Now, technically, this would be a short setup. However, what I will tell you is when you have a chart like this, typically short setups are going to underperform when it's this bullish, if it's going to remain bullish, that is. But, if I was in a long from down here, this would definitely be on my radar as a take profit, at least initially. After that, you could hold it. You could put your stop loss at your entry down here, whatever you want to do, and go forward. But yeah, so to me, this is that's how I'm looking at CASPA. I don't have any like all-time high targets for it. I don't know enough about it. I don't know anything about market cap, but it's a really good chart. So I don't know what it does, but I'm going to be looking at it more frequently and seeing if I can get like a big dip like this to maybe buy in on.
For sure. Well, I'm seeing Eric Wallen in the chat wants me to give you a little bit of the lowdown on the fundamentals of it. And the fundamentals are pretty compelling, but finding out that you are a bit of a Bitcoin maxi, I don't know how that information slipped by me this whole time, but that does kind of make sense. It does make sense.
XRP ruined me. Yeah, it made me a Bitcoin maxi. 2017 and 18 made me a Bitcoin maximalist.
Let's wrap up with XRP because I want to see kind of what your thoughts are on it. But before we do, CASPA, sure. The reason why a lot of folks are bullish on it, I do hold a big bag of it, and I'm kind of in a similar camp to you where, well, I'm in a similar camp because it's kind of a wait and see. But Jonathan Sopolinsky has been cited in many white papers for altcoins, and Charles Hoskinson and Vitalik Buterin, who are the founders of major blockchains, if you don't know. They have cited him as well in speeches and in different publications. And he launched CASPA in 2021. It is a proof of work coin like Bitcoin. And then there's a few other fundamental things that are, it's not listed on any major exchanges like Coinbase or Binance quite yet, which is bullish. Folks are anticipating that. And it, if you really drill down into the tech of it, it's a ghost DAG, right? So it has a little bit of a scalable edge. The scalability is potentially better, and it's just an overall, better answer to the trilemma, which is kind of what every, layer one or layer one plus layer twos are all trying to solve. So, it's compelling to me. It's compelling to the market. Army Piper likes it. Tim likes it.
The market likes it a lot.
Yeah.
I always tell people this, and people hate on me for this. So I'll leave the conversation on that. Is I believe strong fundamentals, show up in charts. And so a strong chart is a representation a lot of times of strong fundamentals. And that's a really strong chart. Like Lynx is very strong. That's very strong. It's very good. So yeah. I would believe that the fundamentals are good on that one. It is something I'm going to be diving more into for sure.
Now, I want to end with XRP, but I want to hear your thoughts on Chainlink, because Chainlink seems to have been a canary in the coal mine a couple of times. Is that kind of how you're seeing Chainlink? And is Chainlink telling you, because now it's like sideways, right? What is Chainlink telling you about the potential, next couple of weeks of trading and what we could expect from the rest of the crypto market?
Chainlink front ran Bitcoin on its major,
it did.
On its major targets. And so I was actually looking for Chainlink to put in a high up here potentially. A lot of people are looking for $27 or $30, and rightfully so. There is targets up there. You pull like fixed range from here to here, just that local consolidation. Yeah, $27, right?
Bang.
However, if you start zooming out, which you know me, I love to zoom out, and we start looking at like a yearly chart or a monthly chart, for instance, this is a big level for Link. Getting back above that 2020 high and living above these closures here is something it really hasn't done. But again, kind of similar to what we were just talking about in log, we go to Chainlink's chart. This is a good looking crypto chart. Like we've got a nice higher low. Link is probably my largest altcoin holding. I've been pretty vocal about it.
There you go.
I started buying it on the way down at $11.30. I was looking for potentially $5. And the big thing about Link for me was this is going back to this is going to date me as an old guy in the space, but this is going back to like 2020. One of my business partners back in the day from Australia got me into Link, and I put in some stink bids for the crash for
some limit orders.
COVID. Yeah, I just had some limit orders set because I knew the market was. I thought Bitcoin was going to 5,500.
I've never heard that phrase before. Stink bids. So just wanted to clarify.
Bids, yeah. So I had some limit orders in, and I picked up sub 50 cents basically was my average, which was good. So I held that through the bull market, and I did take profits, yes. But I started. Where can I get in on Link? So you had a really interesting setup. So I believe the bottom was in like right here. So this was actually my Genesis pull for timing for this asset. So I was looking for the all-time high here. Then I'm just looking for major pivots. But realistically, the one-to-one was here. And at the time in that Discord, I actually put out that we did sweep the overall low here on the one-to-one in time, basically. So I'm looking to long this and take out at least these highs, potentially run it even further higher. So it needs to get through this level. If it does, $27, $30 is certainly on the table. If it gets rejected here, there is a setup for a rejection. This was the trade setup we covered. So was it a canary in the coal mine? I don't know. I wasn't looking at that. I look at charts kind of individually, to be upfront with you. Like I'm one of those people. However, this was the higher time frame setup I was looking for. So I did short this asset. I hate to break anyone's heart. You had a higher time frame where I'm looking for this B leg over time at 1656. And then you have this right here. This was also a level that was marked out really nicely. So initial short was here, take profit. I got stopped out. However, it was kind enough to present me with a 1 hour into macro resistance right here. So we had a secondary harmonic. I know another one. This one's referred to as a crab pattern, where you get deep expansions, 3618 and 1618 convergence.
There you go.
Was looking to come down and back test old support right here. I know this is getting very messy. Get rid of that. Old support's right here. And then you're looking to basically come down to what we talked about earlier, where you had the B leg, right? So when you have a B leg, what is it? It's where expansion took place. This is where the range started, the W formation in this case, W. And you can see that after you've made your high, back test of the B leg, back test of the high, back to the B leg, looking for the range to break. It's either going to break higher or lower. I've been shorting up here, mainly because I hold enough Link. So the theory behind that for anyone that's like, oh, I can't believe you're shorting Link, you're going to get your face ripped off. That's what stop losses are for, first of all. But second,
it's a hedge.
To me, it doesn't make any sense to buy more Link when I've been buying in this region of the chart. So to me, I'm like, okay, I can trade this, and I'm not shorting a ton of Link. I think one of the positions was like 500 or 600 Link. And then I'll take, 300 or 400 in profit at my first, earliest convenience at my target. Mm-hmm. And then I'll put my stop loss at break even and kind of just let the market do what it's going to do. So I'm not like using a ton of capital on that trade, because you are counter trading the trend, right? That's the thing, is that you have to have a setup for it. So Link is cool, man. Link's a good chart. So that's my thoughts on Link. Could it hit $100? I hope so. I'm gonna make a bunch of money if it does. That's how I look at it.
Absolutely. Well, from our 9 a.m. show, you just hit on something where I had some new rules, some goals that I brought up. So swing trade goal number 1 is never get caught up in the FOMO and the FUD. Swing trading goal number 2, learn to fade those that do. Right? So that's what we were preaching this morning, and now we're getting to see it put into practice. I've got on this same document, I've actually got a factoid for you here. Usually I'm grilling Tim on random trivia, so I've got one for you here. What is the smallest country in Africa? Is it A, Algeria, B, the Seychelles, C, Lesotho, or D, Sierra Leone?
I have no idea. I know someone from Algeria here locally, so I'm gonna say Algeria because if it is, then I might give him some smack.
All right. It is the Seychelles.
I
So
didn't know
this
that was a country. I hate to say
the
it.
Seychelles. I've only ever heard of it because it was a tax shelter for a while. It's kind of a anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, it's only 450 kilometers squared, and yeah. So Algeria, actually, not to throw you under the rug, but it's the largest country in Africa.
Oh,
So I
well,
think it's one
no,
of
I
these.
definitely won't bring. His name's Abdu. I'm not bringing that up. He's never gonna let me forget it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's okay. All right, XRP, and then we'll let you
Sure.
go. But I
No,
have
you're
to get your
good.
take now. Tim and I have kind of here on the Investing Bros, our position has taken kind of a little bit of more of a bearish turn, and that has a lot to do with the fundamentals, but it also has to do with the charts. So let's take a look at it.
So yeah, this was the original setup. We actually covered this on your guys' show a long time ago too. This was the original setup, looking for about 95 cents. However, you had a nice value area low at 58 and 54 cents. We said that needed to be support. You did nuke through it initially back in August, but it's been pretty good. You've been setting up on it. Below that is what is called it's a TPO, point of control, and value area low. So that's time price opportunity for anyone that wants to know what those words mean. Um, I get those from ATAS. It's a different platform, but um, I like to put them on my charts on the high time frames. And XRP is so range bound that it really works out well. You kind of need to know where it's spent the most time at. So 47 cents was the level we said that if it breaks down below this needs to be support. It's trying to be. From a simple standpoint, if it breaks 47 cents, I'm actually in favor of probably making a new low, which might not be as popular as some opinions, especially if they've been holding it for a long time and they were promised riches based on um, the settlement and whatnot. But what I will say is, here's what you're watching on the high time frames. So macro wise, right? That's what everybody cares about. Like, who cares about the day to day? Let's look at what matters right now. You've tapped 47 cents, which was a very, very big level for us, right? You have this quarter one low here. Really important on almost all of your charts. Anything from Bitcoin to Ethereum to, probably even Link. I would mark it out. So you can see how well respected it is here. It's very good. Resistance, no closures above. Q&T's actually got a really good quarterly closure as well to know about at 145. And those guys go hand in hand. However, if you start recovering this 54-cent region by the end of the quarter, which, we've got time, got a couple months, and living above it, you actually have not closed back above this level in a long time. And as long as you're holding 47 cents as a low, I remain kind of bullish on it at that point. So I'm pretty neutral right now. I'm not as bullish as I was just based on this reaction. However, it could very quickly turn that around at 54.61 cents on like a high time frame closure, like a quarterly closing above this, flipping to support. I would then start looking at this as, okay, we've got something here. Maybe we at least go retest the last quarter's high at 75 cents, and then we can kind of take it from there and figure out what we want to do. But yeah, if you lose 47 cents, you can see on this chart, good things are not going to happen, right? But below this level right here, which is essentially where these wicks are at, where you've spent the most amount of time. And so time price opportunity, point of control, and value area low, very similar to in the way I was using that as volume profile. Not how you would do it if you were day trading, a different scenario, but you can see how much time you've spent here. And these are quarterly candles. So you got to think these are very high time frames. So you've chopped around these levels a lot. If you were to lose it, I'm looking back down to these lows. I'm looking to come back down here, see if there's still demand. And if not, there is a level on the 12-month, if I recall, that I would be, begin to look at. And well, that's a new level right there at 33 cents. But you're pretty much looking to challenge back down into this open somewhere around 19 to maybe, what is the low here? 21 cents, somewhere in that region.
And then by then
So
you've missed out on the bull market.
probably so. Probably probably not a good thing. But as of right now, neutral on XRP. So hopefully that's good news for someone. But if I was watching a level, it would be that 54-cent region. Man, I can't get my brush to not be on.
Something
Perfect.
a little more bullish for XRP, actually. Something I've had charted out here for a little bit is this downtrending line of resistance now has been actually penetrated up, but you've got this resistance over here that has yet to be sliced through. So On the daily, you are getting back up above that Bollinger Band on the daily, which is nice to see. But it's gotta do a little more than that. So we'll see.
But I mean,
We'll
on the
see.
macro, if you look at it from the COVID lows, this is a kind of a silver lining for the guys. And I'm not trying to
For
give them
sure.
false hope by any means, but the charts are the charts. You have a bunch of lower highs, obviously, but you do have higher lows. You are making higher lows, and you need to continue to hold that last higher low. Otherwise, you'll probably challenge these, and things start to look not so great. So that would be my recommendation for anyone that's like, hey, when do I know that this is just not great? On below 47 cents is I start to really turn my opinion that I'm not neutral anymore. I'm downright bearish on the chart for a while. But right now, if you guys recover 54 cents by the end of March, I mean, you guys might be the ones laughing, the holders anyway.
I love it.
I hope they are, because that community needs a win.
Yeah. Everybody needs a win. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a really big pleasure. We got to have you on again to see if we can get a harmonic. Once you have a harmonic drawn for this new bull run for Bitcoin, that's going to be really cool. But Magic Internet Money is more than just the harmonics, guys, and you can find that out in the Discord, on the Twitter, which there are links to in the description.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll have to have you on soon again. Guys, this episode was brought to you by Decrypt.tax. So if you're looking for any kind of tax solutions, if you've invested or traded crypto this year, which I've got somebody here on with me who absolutely has. If you're in a similar boat where you've traded a little crypto this year, maybe you've even invested in a little crypto, head on over to Decrypt.tax. And you can get a free consultation, free 60-minute consultation, and those are going quick now that we're in the full swing of tax season. So if you have been planning, you think you were going to pull the trigger, you've just been waiting, now is your time. Magic Internet Money, it's been a real pleasure. We'll have to have you on soon. Any closing thoughts?
No, I was just going to say, guys, you guys are getting to the funnest part of the market. So if this is your first cycle, or if it's your second one, hopefully you're learning from first cycle mistakes, as we all made them. And trade safe. And thanks for having me, man. I love coming on your guys' show. It's awesome.
For sure. Adios, bros.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.